In a world full of constant distractions, demands, and pressures, it can be all too easy to let anger take control. Have you ever been in a situation where someone says something that immediately triggers a response in you? Perhaps an insult, a judgment, or even an offhand comment. It happens to all of us. But what if I told you that it's possible to never get angry again, no matter how hard others try to push your buttons? Impossible, you say? Well, stick with me, because by the end of this, you might just find a way to stay cool as a cucumber no matter what life throws your way. You see, anger is an emotional reaction, often rooted in our expectations or beliefs being challenged. When we expect someone to behave a certain way, and they don't meet those expectations, we get upset. But what if we could adjust how we expect the world to behave? If we take a step back, pause, and reconsider our reactions, we can choose a path that doesn't involve rage or irritation. Let's get into how you can take control of your emotional responses and stop giving others the power to upset you. First of all, let's face the truth. The more we hold on to anger, the more it controls us. Think about a time when you've been angry. How did it make you feel? Did you feel empowered, or did it drain you? I bet it drained you. Anger burns you out, it stresses you out, and it poisons your mind. The person you're angry at probably doesn't even know how much they've hurt you, and yet you're the one carrying the weight. Isn't that a thought-provoking realization? If we hold on to anger, we're hurting ourselves, not them. It's time to let go of this self-destructive habit, but how? It all starts with a shift in perspective. What if instead of viewing the world as an unyielding place full of rude people, frustrating circumstances, and unpredictable events, you saw it as an opportunity for growth? Every challenge, every difficult person, every frustrating moment could be a chance for you to become the person who remains unshaken, who chooses peace instead of rage. This might sound like a lofty ideal, but trust me, it's achievable. And it starts by simply making a choice. But here's the catch. You can't just want to stay calm. You have to practice it. It's easy to say, I'll never let anyone bother me again. But how often do we find ourselves snapping at others? How do we control that instinctive anger that bubbles up when we're irritated or hurt? The answer lies in mindfulness. When you train yourself to be present in the moment, to recognize your emotional triggers before they explode, you can intercept those knee-jerk reactions. It takes time, yes, but it's completely within your power. Another key piece of this puzzle is realizing that you don't have to be right all the time. So often we get angry because we feel like we've been wronged, that we've been mistreated, or that others aren't seeing things the way we see them. But guess what? The world doesn't revolve around our perceptions. It's not about winning the argument or proving we're right. It's about learning to let go of the need to be validated by others. When you can accept that sometimes people will act in ways you don't agree with, without feeling the need to fight back, you'll find it easier to remain calm and unbothered. Are you starting to see it? Your anger, your frustration, your irritation, it's all based on how you perceive the situation. If you change how you look at things, you can change how you react. This doesn't mean you become a doormat or allow others to walk all over you. It means you create space between yourself and your emotions, so that when someone tries to push your buttons, you have the ability to choose how you respond. And let me tell you, that's power. So let's dive deeper into how to really put this into practice. First, you need to cultivate an awareness of your triggers. What makes you angry? What makes you feel frustrated, upset, or hurt? Write them down. Yes, physically write them down. When you identify your triggers, you can begin to disarm them. The next time one of these triggers arises, instead of reacting instantly, take a breath, pause. In that brief moment of stillness, you can decide how you want to feel, how you want to react. You're in control. Isn't that empowering? Now, let's talk about the power of empathy. It's easy to get angry when we feel like we're the victim, when we believe someone has wronged us or is intentionally trying to hurt us. But think for a moment. What if they're not trying to upset you at all? What if they're just having a bad day? Or maybe they don't even realize how their words or actions are affecting you. When you see things from another person's perspective, you soften your own reaction. It doesn't make what they did right, but it helps you to respond with understanding, not anger. It's about rising above the situation and choosing peace. At this point, you may be thinking, what about when someone really crosses the line? That's a fair question. There are, of course, situations where it's not just about letting go of your anger. It's about setting boundaries and standing up for yourself. But even in those cases, responding with calmness and clarity will always serve you better than reacting with rage. You can express your feelings without raising your voice, without feeling defensive or out of control. And when you do that, you maintain your power. By now, you should be starting to realize that anger doesn't need to rule your life. It's a habit, a learned response that can be unlearned. Every time you choose not to react angrily, you strengthen your emotional resilience. You create a new pattern, and eventually you'll find yourself in situations where you're not even tempted to get angry anymore. You'll be calm, composed, and in control. It's not an overnight transformation, but it's one that's absolutely worth the effort. But let's take it one step further. What if you could take this practice beyond just not getting angry? What if you could actually be grateful for the moments that challenge you, for the people who push your buttons? What if you could see each irritating person and frustrating situation as an opportunity for you to grow in patience, understanding, and emotional maturity? That's the next level, my friends. When you can genuinely see obstacles as growth opportunities, the world becomes a playground for your personal development. Anger becomes irrelevant. Let's delve deeper. What if I told you that your ability to stay calm, to never let anger bother you, doesn't rely on others' actions but on your own thoughts? This idea is one of the most liberating things you can learn in life. Think about it. Anger is a response to something external, yes, but your reaction to that external thing is entirely within your control. So let me ask you, how often have you given your emotional well-being away to someone else? How often have you let someone's rude comment or frustrating behavior steal your peace? If you're like most of us, you've probably done it more times than you care to admit. But here's the truth. Your peace is yours to protect, and no one else can take it from you unless you allow them to. Now, some of you might be skeptical. But they said this or he did that, you might argue. And I get it. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to feel justified in our anger. After all, when someone crosses a line, don't we have a right to get upset? But here's a thought. Is your reaction helping the situation? Is your anger making things better, or is it just escalating the conflict and making you feel worse? In most cases, anger only makes the situation more chaotic. It clouds your judgment, prevents productive conversation, and poisons the relationships you care about. When you choose to react calmly, you pave the way for a better, more peaceful resolution. The idea that anger is a choice can be a hard pill to swallow. But think about it. What is anger really? It's an emotion that arises when we perceive that something unjust has occurred. It's our body's way of signaling that we need to act or that something is wrong. But here's the kicker. Our thoughts about the situation are what give rise to that emotion. It's not the event itself, it's how we interpret the event. Someone might cut you off in traffic, but if you don't allow yourself to believe it's a personal attack, then you won't feel angry. Instead, you'll just see it as an unfortunate event, something that happens in life. When you change how you view situations, you change how you feel about them. This is where your true power lies. The first step to controlling anger, then, is awareness. You need to be aware of your thought patterns and the way you interpret the world. Once you recognize that it's your perception, not the external world, that's causing you to feel upset, you can begin to reframe those thoughts. Take a moment to think about how often you let small annoyances spiral into bigger problems because of the way you interpreted them. Maybe someone didn't say hello when they passed you in the hallway and you took it personally. Maybe someone didn't reply to your message right away and you assumed they were ignoring you. These little perceptions can build up, and before you know it, you're in a full-blown emotional storm over something trivial. So what if you could interrupt that pattern? What if you could choose not to engage with those thoughts? That's where the power of reframing comes in. Reframing is the act of looking at a situation from a different angle, changing your interpretation of it. For example, let's say someone says something hurtful to you. Instead of seeing it as an intentional attack on your character, you could reframe it as their own struggle, their own frustration coming out. Maybe they're going through something you don't know about, and their words aren't about you, they're about them. When you can look at things through a lens of empathy and understanding, anger loses its grip on you. Instead of lashing out, you respond with compassion or simply let it go. You're not allowing someone else's behavior to dictate your emotional state. That's a huge step toward emotional freedom. Now let's talk about expectations. One of the biggest reasons we get angry is because our expectations are not met. We expect people to behave in a certain way. We expect things to go according to plan, And when they don't, we feel betrayed or frustrated. But the truth is, life is unpredictable. People are unpredictable, and that's okay. When you start to expect less from others and accept that things won't always go the way you want, you'll find that your anger starts to dissolve. You can't control other people, but you can control your reaction to them. By accepting the impermanence of everything, including your expectations, you free yourself from the emotional traps of disappointment and frustration. Furthermore, let's talk about the role of forgiveness in all of this. Forgiveness is not just about letting someone else off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from the hold of anger. When you forgive, you release yourself from the emotional burden of resentment. Carrying that anger is like carrying around a heavy weight. It hurts you, not the person who wronged you. So forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself. The act of forgiveness is liberating, and it can radically shift your perspective. Instead of seeing the person who hurt you as someone to be angry at, you begin to see them as someone who taught you a valuable lesson. The ability to forgive is one of the most powerful tools you can wield in your quest to never get angry. Another essential aspect of this process is learning how to focus on the present moment. When we dwell on past grievances or worry about future conflicts, we allow ourselves to become stressed, anxious, and ultimately angry. But when you keep your attention focused on the present, there's no room for anger to fester. You're fully immersed in the here and now, and nothing from the past or future has the power to disturb your peace. Mindfulness is the practice of grounding yourself in the present moment, paying attention to your thoughts, emotions, and surroundings without judgment. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you'll find that your emotions are no longer reactive but proactive. You can choose how to respond in any given moment. Another important concept to understand is the power of detachment. When we become too attached to outcomes, to expectations, or even to certain people behaving in a specific way, we set ourselves up for frustration. Detachment is not about not caring, it's about releasing the need for control. When you let go of attachment to how things should be, you open yourself to experiencing life as it is. Unpredictable, sometimes chaotic, but always manageable when you approach it with the right mindset. When you stop seeking validation from others, when you stop needing things to go according to your plans, you gain a level of emotional independence that's incredibly freeing. No one can make you angry unless you allow them to. You are the one who holds the key to your emotional state. The more you embrace detachment, the more peaceful you become. You no longer feel like a victim of circumstance, but instead you become the master of your own responses. You are in control. At the heart of all this is the idea that your peace is yours to protect. No one can take it from you without your consent. When you understand that, it becomes much easier to remain calm and composed in the face of conflict or adversity. Your peace is non-negotiable. When you protect it, you give yourself the freedom to be your best self. Imagine living a life where no one can push your buttons, where no one can steal your joy. That's the power of emotional mastery. By now, you might be beginning to realize that the key to not getting angry doesn't just lie in the power of our actions, it lies in the mastery of our thoughts. Our minds are incredibly powerful. We often forget just how much control we have over the way we interpret and respond to the world. Our thoughts shape our reality, and our emotions are simply a reflection of those thoughts. The moment we start to control our thoughts, we begin to control our emotional reactions as well. The mind is the battlefield where anger, frustration, and all negative emotions are born. And if we can learn to train our minds, we can begin to reshape how we deal with the world around us. Let's talk for a moment about the idea of self-talk. How many of you have a little voice in your head that's quick to judge, criticize, or even curse when something goes wrong? We all have this inner dialogue, and it plays a massive role in how we experience the world. If that inner voice is constantly fueling anger, frustration, and resentment, how can we expect to stay calm in challenging situations? Changing your self-talk is a crucial step in taking control of your emotional responses. Instead of letting the voice in your head confirm that this is unfair, or I can't stand this, try reframing your thoughts to something more constructive. For example, instead of saying, "This person is driving me crazy," say, "I can't control their actions, but I can control how I respond." Notice the difference in how empowering that second thought feels. This shift in mindset requires practice, yes, but once it becomes a habit, it can have a profound impact on your emotional state. The more you interrupt negative thought patterns and replace them with more rational, peaceful alternatives, the more you'll find yourself in control of your emotions. And when you master the art of controlling your thoughts, guess what happens? Your anger no longer has the power to dictate your actions. You begin to realize that your responses are not only within your control, they are a reflection of your emotional maturity. So, how can we begin to develop this mastery of our thoughts and emotions? One of the most effective ways to reprogram our minds is through affirmations. Affirmations are simple, positive statements that we repeat to ourselves to help change our thought patterns. For example, you could say, I am calm, composed, and in control, or I choose peace over anger in every situation. The beauty of affirmations is that they work on a subconscious level. The more you repeat these positive statements, the more your brain starts to believe them, and over time, they begin to shape your reality. Affirmations may sound too simple to be effective, but in reality, they are one of the most powerful tools for cultivating emotional intelligence and self-control. Another great tool to develop emotional mastery is visualization. Visualization involves mentally rehearsing situations where you might feel triggered and imagining yourself responding with calmness and clarity. Let's say you know that a particular person tends to annoy you or push your buttons. Instead of waiting for the next encounter to react, sit quietly for a moment, close your eyes, and visualize yourself facing that person. See yourself staying composed, breathing deeply, and responding in a calm and peaceful manner. This mental exercise trains your brain to automatically react with calmness in real-life situations. Visualization works because it tricks your mind into believing you've already mastered the emotional challenge, and the next time the situation arises, your mind naturally defaults to a calm, controlled response. But let's not overlook the power of gratitude in this entire process. Gratitude isn't just about being thankful for the good things in life. Instead of allowing their behavior to upset you, shift your focus to something you can be grateful for in that moment. Maybe it's the opportunity to practice patience, or the chance to show kindness, or simply the fact that you're in a situation where you can work on your emotional resilience. By focusing on gratitude, you automatically shift your mindset from frustration to peace. It's a subtle yet powerful shift, and it's one that can transform your emotional state in an instant. Another area where we can gain mastery is in learning the art of detachment. This isn't about becoming cold, distant, or apathetic. It's about understanding that not everything is personal. People's words and actions are often a reflection of their own struggles, not a direct attack on you. If you can train yourself to detach emotionally from other people's behavior, you'll find that your anger dissipates. For instance, when someone is rude to you, instead of taking it personally and getting upset, recognize that their behavior might stem from something they're going through. When you detach from the need to internalize someone else's issues, you free yourself from their emotional burdens. This doesn't mean you should allow people to treat you poorly. It means you don't allow their treatment of you to dictate how you feel. As you continue on this journey of emotional mastery, it's important to remember that it's not about perfection. It's about progress. But the key is learning to recognize when those emotions arise and choosing to respond differently than you might have in the past. It's about building new habits, new thought patterns, and new ways of interacting with the world. And with time and consistent effort, you'll find that your default response is no longer anger, but peace and calm. When you master the ability to stay calm, to never be bothered by anyone, you create a life that is much more enjoyable and fulfilling. You begin to attract positive experiences and people because your energy is no longer consumed by anger or frustration. The world will always be full of challenges, but when you remain unshaken in the face of adversity, you become an anchor of calm in a chaotic world. The more you practice this emotional mastery, the more resilient and powerful you become. And the best part, you become the kind of person who is always calm, always composed, and always in control, no matter what others do or say. You see, the ultimate goal of never getting angry is not just to avoid negative emotions. It's to take full responsibility for your emotional state. You are the one in the driver's seat of your life. And when you master the art of responding with calmness and clarity, you unlock the ability to create the life you truly desire. No one can disturb your peace unless you allow them to. And when you choose to stay calm, composed, and unbothered, you are free to focus your energy on what truly matters: your growth, your happiness, and your well-being. Let's take this a step further. Imagine for a moment how powerful you'd feel if you were able to meet every challenging situation with a sense of unshakable peace. What if, when someone insults you, you didn't feel compelled to react, but instead responded with a smile and calm composure? Can you picture it? That's the essence of emotional mastery, staying grounded no matter what's happening around you. The more you practice this, the more you'll realize that your power lies in your ability to remain untouched by external circumstances. The world may throw chaos your way, but your inner peace remains your sanctuary. One of the most profound ways to achieve this is through the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness is about becoming fully aware of the present moment without judgment. When you're mindful, you become an observer of your thoughts and emotions instead of being swept away by them. Imagine you're in a conversation and someone says something rude to you. Instead of reacting immediately, you take a mental step back, observe your emotional reaction, and choose your response. Mindfulness creates a buffer between stimulus and reaction. You don't have to immediately react to every thought or emotion that arises. The more you practice mindfulness, the less likely you are to let anger or frustration take over. Now let's talk about self-awareness, because it's an essential component of staying calm. To not be bothered by anyone, you must first understand yourself, your triggers, your patterns, and your emotional responses. Self-awareness gives you the tools to navigate your emotions in any situation. For instance, if you know that you tend to get upset when people interrupt you, you can prepare yourself in advance by practicing self-control or redirecting the conversation calmly. When you recognize your emotional responses, you can take action to change them rather than letting them control you. Self-awareness allows you to respond, not react. But here's the thing. Not everything in life will always go the way you expect it. There will always be moments when you're tested, when the universe seems to throw challenges at you just to see if you can handle them. That's when your emotional strength and composure will be tested. It's easy to be calm when everything is going well, right? But what about when things fall apart, when people disappoint you, or when life throws you a curveball? That's when true emotional mastery comes into play. It's not about never facing difficult moments. It's about how you choose to handle them. A key to navigating these challenges is acceptance. Acceptance is not about passive resignation or complacency. It's about acknowledging that life is messy, imperfect, and unpredictable. When you can accept things as they are, rather than how you think they should be, you create an emotional space where anger and frustration no longer have the power to control you. When someone cuts you off in traffic, you don't have to get angry. You can accept that people are imperfect, and sometimes things happen that are beyond your control. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means letting go of the need to force life into your ideal mold. The moment you stop trying to control everything, you open the door to peace. Another important practice in this journey of emotional mastery is the concept of emotional detachment. When you detach from other people's behavior, you stop giving them the power to control how you feel. It's not about becoming indifferent or disconnected. It's about realizing that you are not responsible for other people's actions, and their actions do not define your emotional state. When you stop attaching your emotions to what others do or say, you free yourself from their power. This isn't about ignoring people's feelings or being insensitive. It's about understanding that their words or actions are a reflection of them, not you. You don't have to take it personally. The moment you detach emotionally from someone else's behavior, you release their grip on your peace. And remember, boundaries are an essential part of this process. Setting boundaries means recognizing that you deserve to be treated with respect. And if someone oversteps those boundaries, you calmly assert your needs. Setting boundaries does not mean you lose your temper or engage in conflict. It simply means you communicate what's acceptable and what's not. When you set clear boundaries, you make it easier for yourself to stay calm because you know you are taking steps to protect your emotional well-being. Boundaries give you the confidence to handle situations without being emotionally triggered. But let's not forget that sometimes anger arises from a place of hurt. If someone says something that offends you, it's often because deep down you feel wounded. And while it's important to address that hurt, it's also crucial to remember that your anger doesn't serve you in healing that wound. The key to healing is self-compassion. When you treat yourself with kindness and understanding, instead of beating yourself up for feeling hurt, you allow the pain to dissipate. Compassion for yourself and others creates space for emotional healing and growth. The less you react from a place of pain, the more you respond with wisdom and clarity. Another powerful tool for staying calm is the practice of deep breathing. When you feel anger rising within you, one of the simplest and most effective ways to calm yourself down is by focusing on your breath. Deep breathing activates the body's parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for relaxation. It's impossible to feel angry when you're focused on slow, deep breath. The next time you feel your temper flare, take a moment to close your eyes, inhale deeply through your nose, hold the breath for a few seconds, and then exhale slowly through your mouth. Repeat this process until you feel your body and mind begin to settle. This simple technique can stop anger in its tracks and help you return to a state of calm. Now let's touch on something even more profound: the power of choosing peace. It sounds almost too simple, right? But choosing peace is one of the most radical acts of self-love you can perform. When you consciously decide to maintain your peace, regardless of what happens around you, you reclaim control of your life. This choice doesn't mean denying your emotions or pretending that everything is perfect. It means acknowledging the situation and deciding that no matter how challenging it may be, your peace is non-negotiable. It's a choice you make every single day. And finally, let's talk about the benefits of never getting angry, of staying calm and composed in the face of adversity. When you choose to remain unbothered, you begin to notice a remarkable shift in the quality of your life. You'll find that you have more energy because you're no longer wasting it on anger and frustration. You'll also find that you attract more positive, peaceful people into your life. When you stay calm, you become a magnet for calmness. People will gravitate towards you because you radiate peace. And perhaps most importantly, you'll develop a deeper sense of emotional intelligence. You'll become better at managing your emotions, understanding others, and responding in ways that create positive outcomes. So, the next time someone tries to push your buttons, remember that you have the power to stay calm. The world may throw challenges your way, but you can choose how you respond. When you master the art of emotional composure, you unlock a level of inner strength and peace that will serve you for the rest of your life. You'll no longer be at the mercy of other people's behavior or life's unpredictability. Instead, you'll be a beacon of calm, resilience, and wisdom. And that is the true power of emotional mastery. As we continue on this journey, let's explore how our emotional triggers often hold the key to unlocking a life of peace. We all have those moments where something small, something seemingly insignificant, can send us into a tailspin of irritation, frustration, or even full-blown anger. But what if these triggers didn't have to control us? What if, instead of reacting, we could take a step back and assess the situation with clarity and calmness? The truth is, our emotional triggers are simply unresolved wounds or deeply held beliefs that react in defense when something touches on them. So, the key to not getting angry isn't to avoid these triggers. It's to address them head on and transform them. By becoming aware of what triggers you, you can begin to understand the root cause of your emotional responses. Maybe it's something from your past, a traumatic event, a childhood experience, or even something as simple as the way someone talks to you that stirs up old feelings. These triggers often come up when we least expect them, but rather than being reactive, we can approach them with curiosity and self-awareness. Why does this situation upset me so much? What belief is being activated in my mind right now? By taking the time to reflect on these questions, you begin to disarm your triggers, preventing them from controlling you. Once you recognize your triggers, the next step is to transform them. This is where the magic happens. Instead of seeing your triggers as something to be feared or avoided, you start to see them as opportunities for growth. Each time you feel triggered, you can consciously choose to pause and reflect before reacting. This moment of pause is where you gain control. Instead of being swept away by a flood of emotions, you can take a deep breath, shift your perspective, and decide how you want to respond. This might sound like a simple shift, but it's incredibly powerful. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to handle situations with composure. Another powerful tool in transforming triggers is cognitive reframing. This technique involves changing the way you think about a situation. For example, if someone cuts in front of you in line, instead of thinking, "How rude, this person is so inconsiderate," you can reframe the situation by asking yourself what might be going on for them. Perhaps they're in a hurry, or they're dealing with something I don't know about. This shift in perspective allows you to remove the emotional charge from the situation, making it easier to respond without anger. When you reframe your thoughts, you take away the power of your triggers and choose a more peaceful response. It's also crucial to remember that self-compassion plays a huge role in our ability to stay calm. When we're able to be compassionate with ourselves, we can extend that same compassion to others. Self-compassion is about understanding that you too are human and that everyone, including you, has moments of weakness, frustration, and pain. When you practice self-compassion, you stop being so hard on yourself for feeling upset or irritated. Instead, you approach yourself with kindness and understanding. And when you do this, you're able to extend that same grace to others. After all, how can we expect to stay unbothered by others if we can't first offer ourselves the same compassion? Now let's consider the power of emotionally distancing yourself from the behavior of others. Often when we get upset or angry, it's because we're too closely tied to someone else's actions. We allow their behavior to dictate how we feel. The key here is learning how to emotionally detach from the actions of others. This doesn't mean shutting people out or ignoring them. It simply means understanding that their behavior is not a reflection of you. When you can emotionally distance yourself from someone's rude or frustrating actions, you no longer take their behavior personally. It's not about you, it's about them. The moment you stop internalizing their actions, you free yourself from the emotional weight they carry. Another critical aspect of remaining calm is the practice of forgiveness. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. It's not about letting someone off the hook for their bad behavior. Instead, it's about releasing yourself from the emotional chains of anger, bitterness, and resentment. When you hold on to grudges, you're only hurting yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened, but it means choosing to let go of the negative emotions tied to that event. You do it for your own peace of mind, not for the other person. When you forgive, you release the grip that anger has on you, and you create space for healing. One of the most powerful things you can do for yourself is to anchor your peace in the midst of chaos. Life is unpredictable and you'll always encounter people who push your buttons. But when you have a solid internal anchor, a deep sense of self-awareness, self-compassion, and emotional control, you won't be swayed by every storm that comes your way. It's like a tree standing tall in the middle of a storm. The branches may sway, but the roots are firm. Your anchor is your mindset, your perspective, and your commitment to staying grounded in the face of adversity. By practicing mindfulness and emotional detachment, you can become that unshakable anchor, no matter how chaotic the world may seem. In addition to this, the practice of radical acceptance is key. Radical acceptance is about embracing life exactly as it is, without trying to force things to be different. Instead of fighting against what's happening, whether it's someone else's behavior or an unforeseen, you don't have to like it, but you choose to accept that this is the reality in this moment. This acceptance helps to dissolve resistance, which is often the root of anger. When you stop resisting what's happening, you stop adding fuel to the fire of frustration. You simply allow life to unfold as it does, and you remain at peace. As you continue to practice these principles, you'll begin to see a noticeable shift in your life. You'll notice that you're less easily irritated, less affected by other people's behavior, and more at peace with yourself. When you stop allowing others to control your emotions, you create space for greater emotional freedom. This freedom isn't about never feeling anger again. It's about choosing not to let anger dictate your actions. It's about choosing peace over reaction. Finally, remember that the journey to emotional mastery is not a straight line. There will be setbacks, moments when you slip up, and times when your emotions get the best of you. But that's okay. The goal isn't perfection, the goal is progress. Each time you catch yourself before reacting in anger, each time you pause and choose calm, you're building emotional resilience. And over time, these small victories add up. You'll find that your default response becomes one of peace, clarity, and self-control. This doesn't mean you won't still have moments of frustration or irritation, but it does mean that you'll have the tools to handle those moments with grace and emotional intelligence. At the end of the day, the key to never getting angry or bothered by anyone is not about changing the world around you. It's about changing how you respond to it. It's about developing the emotional resilience to remain calm, composed, and unshaken, no matter what others do or say. When you master this, you take back control of your emotional life and free yourself from the endless cycle of frustration. The power to stay calm is within you. The more you practice it, the more it becomes second nature, and soon you'll find yourself living a life of profound peace and emotional strength. As we reach the final part of this journey, let's dive even deeper into the art of maintaining inner peace. The truth is, life is full of unpredictability. Chaos is inevitable. People will continue to disappoint you. Situations will arise that feel unfair, and challenges will appear when you least expect them. But the most empowering realization you can make is that none of this has the power to disturb your inner peace unless you allow it to. The key to never getting angry or bothered by anyone isn't to try to change the world around you, but to transform how you respond to it. Now, take a moment to reflect on how much of your energy has been spent on worrying, stressing, or being upset by things outside of your control. Think about all the times you've allowed someone's words, actions, or even a difficult situation to steal your peace. The more you let these external factors dictate your emotional state, the less control you have over your own happiness. But when you recognize that your peace is something that resides within you, and that it's yours to maintain, you shift from being a victim of circumstance to a creator of your own emotional experience. You reclaim your power. At the heart of this emotional mastery is the understanding of impermanence. Nothing in life is permanent, not the good times nor the bad. When we recognize the impermanence of all things, we stop clinging to our emotions or situations. Anger, frustration, and irritation are fleeting emotions. They come and go. But if we hold on to them, we make them permanent. And in doing so, we allow them to dictate how we feel. However, when we understand that emotions are transient, like passing clouds, we give ourselves permission to let them pass without becoming attached to them. This shift in mindset helps you realize that every emotion, no matter how intense, is temporary. This understanding frees you from the burden of carrying anger or frustration, and it empowers you to choose peace in any given moment. Detaching from expectations is another powerful tool that can help us stay unbothered by others. Often our anger arises because things don't go the way we expect them to. We expect people to act a certain way, situations to unfold according to our desires, and when things don't align with these expectations, we become upset. But what if you could free yourself from these expectations? What if you could let go of the need for life to be exactly as you want it? This doesn't mean resigning to passivity. It means embracing flexibility and acceptance. When you stop expecting things to go perfectly, you stop setting yourself up for disappointment. You allow life to unfold in its own way, and you accept it as it is, without getting caught up in frustration or anger. Another crucial part of this emotional journey is acknowledging the role of vulnerability. Oftentimes, our anger is a defense mechanism against vulnerability. We get angry because we don't want to feel hurt, rejected, or exposed. But in reality, embracing vulnerability is one of the most powerful things you can do for your emotional well-being. Vulnerability means being open to feeling, to experiencing, and to connecting with others authentically. When you stop guarding yourself so fiercely, you allow yourself to experience life more fully. Instead of getting angry when you feel vulnerable, you can choose to embrace it. Vulnerability doesn't make you weak, it makes you strong. And when you embrace vulnerability, you also embrace the capacity to respond with calmness rather than anger. It's essential to develop an emotional toolbox, a set of tools you can use when anger or frustration arise. These tools are your go-to strategies for regaining composure when you feel triggered. Some people use deep breathing, others practice visualization, or they might turn to affirmations or mindfulness techniques. The key is to find the tools that work best for you and make them a regular part of your emotional practice. When you have a toolkit ready and accessible, you don't have to panic when anger arises. You can immediately reach for a tool to regain control over your emotional state. The more you use these tools, the more they will become automatic, and soon you'll find yourself responding with calmness without even thinking about it. Another practice that can help you remain unbothered is embracing the concept of not taking things personally. This is easier said than done, especially when people around us act in ways that seem unfair or hurtful. But the truth is, most people's actions have nothing to do with you. They are a reflection of their own struggles, insecurities, and perspectives. When someone is rude or unkind, their behavior is more about them than it is about you. It's easy to take things personally, but when you let go of that attachment, you release the emotional grip that others have on your peace. It's like giving them a key to your emotions and choosing not to give them that power anymore. You are in charge of how you feel, not anyone else. Now let's revisit the importance of radical self-love. To not get angry or bothered by anyone, you need to start from a place of self-acceptance and self-compassion. When you love yourself unconditionally, you no longer need external validation or approval. You are complete as you are. This self-love creates an emotional buffer between you and others' actions. When you are at peace with yourself, it becomes much easier to let go of what others do or say. Self-love means treating yourself with the same kindness, patience, and understanding that you would offer to a loved one. When you practice self-love, you give yourself the emotional stability you need to navigate life's challenges without getting swept up in anger. Here's the truth. Emotional freedom is a process, not an end goal. It's not something you wake up with one day, but something you cultivate day by day, moment by moment. Just like any skill, emotional mastery takes practice. And like any worthwhile journey, it requires patience. You'll stumble, you'll fall, and there will be days when your emotions get the better of you. But that's okay. The point is to keep going, to keep practicing, and to keep developing the tools you need to stay calm, centered, and unshaken. Ultimately, your emotional peace isn't about perfect circumstances. It's about your ability to respond to those circumstances with grace. As you continue to grow and deepen your emotional intelligence, you'll find that you encounter fewer situations that trigger anger or frustration. You'll start to see the beauty in challenges and growth and adversity. And when others try to push your buttons or when life seems unfair, you'll have the wisdom to pause, breathe, and choose peace. Remember, the power to never get angry or bothered by anyone is always in your hands. It begins with the realization that your emotions don't have to be dictated by the actions of others. You are the creator of your emotional experience. You have the tools, the mindset, and the strength to choose peace over anger, calm over chaos, and love over frustration. It's a lifelong practice, but it's a practice worth mastering. Because when you master this, you unlock a level of inner peace that is untouchable, unshakable, and completely yours.